Thanks very much for joining us today. I'm very excited to be able to launch the annual survey for this year, which is already available on our website. I'm going to give a very brief introduction to the annual survey, and then Matt Clark is going to speak in much more detail about the results for this year. The other thing I'm going to do is briefly give you some of the headline stats on Carplus, and just a bit of a review about what's happened in the past year and look to the future of the annual survey. So the annual survey, as many of you will already know, is the only sector-wide data that is collected independently and analysed by Steer Davis Reed on our behalf. We've now got about 8 years worth of data, and of that I've been involved, I think, for the last 4 years. This year there's 3 reports that we've produced, one for England and Wales, one for Scotland and one for London, and this broadly reflects the funding that we get from Transport for London, from the Department of Transport and from Transport Scotland that goes towards the annual survey. And I think at this point it would be appropriate to thank our core funders and also thank the operators for the inputs into this year's annual survey. The operators actually help us to collect the data from their members, and without their help and support it just wouldn't be possible to do this survey. So this year's reports, as I mentioned, are available on our website at the moment, so please go have a look, read them in detail and do download. So just to give you a bit of background as to where we are with Carplus at the moment, and this data is for England, Wales, Scotland and London. There's about 188,000 Carplus members using about 3,250 cars across that area. There's still a lot of growth going on in Carplus. London's the fastest growing city, but outside of London we're very excited that there's a lot of growth in Scotland, and I think the fastest growing cities Glasgow and Edinburgh. There's been several launches in the past year of Carplus. Just to mention a couple, Inverness, Nottingham, Plymouth, and the first all-electric car club in Scotland is St Andrews. There's obviously new operators that have come into the market, the launch of Drive Now in autumn last year in London, and other operators that we know are looking to launch in the coming year, particularly in London. So I think from our point of view, looking forward to the next year, which I think will be very busy and very exciting. So just a quick review of what's happened in the past year in terms of our work. Obviously the emergence of new models in London, one-way car sharing, new funding programmes from the Department for Transport. Last July the Carplus in England programme was launched, and we've now got funding as well for electric power-assisted cycles. That programme is just about to start. In terms of Transport Scotland investment, they've invested £1 million worth of funding in electric vehicles in Scotland, and that's resulted in 73 new electric vehicles across the fleet, and that's more than the rest of the UK combined, I'm told. And by this summer, nearly 30% of the Scottish car club fleet will actually be electric, which is fantastic news. There's also huge interest in developing car clubs across Scotland. My colleague Matt tells me that now we've been speaking to more than half of Scotland's local authorities about developing a car club in their area. So that's fantastic growth, fantastic news for us. There was also the sharing economy review earlier in the year, and a hugely positive commitment from DVIS to actually develop further car clubs and to support 2+ car sharing. And that report also launched 2 sharing cities, which we're really excited about, Leeds and Manchester. We've also seen further investment of rental companies in car clubs, most recently City Car Club and Enterprise. So we're really interested to see what that brings for the future. So just in terms of the annual survey, looking towards the future, I think we're particularly excited to work with some of the fixed and floating one-way operators, especially in London, to collect some further data, and hopefully they'll be part of the annual survey this coming year. We're also really interested to understand in more detail what happens to people that join a car club actually after they've joined in the years following that. So, for example, people who have been members for 4 years, are they still making behaviour changes further down the line? So some longitudinal data analysis. We're also actively working with Transport for London and with the Carplus Coalition and other partners to look at the needs that they have for data collection and analysis as part of that work. We're also interested to work further with Easy Car Club on expanding the peer-to-peer survey that's been part of this year's annual survey. My colleague Matt's now going to talk in more detail about the annual survey results for this year. There's one thing that I just would draw your attention to. In your programme, you've got a handout that's on the Developing Car Clubs in England programme. On the back of that, there's an infographic which summarises some of the key annual survey results for this year across England and Wales. That is the correct version of the data. Some other versions that you may see around today are sort of previous versions, making some slight amendments to that.